the single most powerful remedy for blackheads, and it's not what you think. Let me start with something that might genuinely surprise you. Every single blackhead sitting on your face right now, every one of them, has the same origin. Not bacteria creeping into your pores, not environmental dirt, not poor hygiene or lazy skincare. There's a very specific biological mechanism happening beneath the surface of your skin. And once you understand it at a chemical level, the way you think about your face, and honestly your entire body, is going to shift completely. I covered blackheads in a video a few years back. That video ended up pulling in millions of views, which told me this is something people genuinely want to understand. But here's the thing. I've since come across some research that I didn't have access to back then, and it fills in gaps that I didn't even know existed. So consider this the updated, more complete version of that conversation. And trust me, the new piece of information at the center of this changes everything. Let's start with what I originally taught, the androgen connection, and why the oil gland is ground zero. Inside your skin, you have what are called sebaceous glands, tiny oil-producing structures attached to your hair follicles. They're designed to produce a natural lubricant called sebum, which keeps your skin moisturized and forms part of your skin's natural defense system. Here's where things go wrong. Your body produces a category of hormones called androgens. These are often referred to as male hormones, though both men and women have them. When androgen levels rise too high, they send a signal to your sebaceous glands that essentially says, produce more oil. The glands respond by ramping up sebum production. That excess oil then travels up through the pore, and sometimes it gets stuck. It clogs, it accumulates. Now, some of those clogged pores have a covering over them. That's a whitehead. Others are exposed to the air around them, open at the surface. When that trapped oil gets exposed to oxygen, it oxidizes, and oxidized sebum turns dark. That darkened, oxidized oil is what we call a blackhead. So whiteheads and blackheads aren't two different problems. They're the exact same problem. The same mechanism, the same underlying biology, just appearing differently depending on whether the pore is sealed or open. And crucially, they have the exact same solution, which I'll walk you through in detail. The fat no one talks about and why it keeps showing up in everyone. Here's where the new research gets genuinely fascinating. When scientists have studied the composition of blackheads across a wide range of people, they found one thing that shows up every single time, in 100% of cases. It's a specific fat called palmitic acid. Now, don't let the word acid throw you off. This is actually a saturated fat. In fact, it's the most abundant saturated fat in the entire human body. You'll recognize it from food sources. It's found in palm oil, butter, full-fat dairy like cheese, and it's heavily present in most processed and packaged foods. But here's the part that matters most. Your body manufactures it internally, and it doesn't make it from fat, it makes it from sugar. When you consume sugar in excess, more than your body can immediately use for energy, the liver steps in. It converts that overflow of sugar into fat. And one of the primary fats it produces through this process is palmitic acid. So right away, we're seeing a direct line. Excess sugar, right-pointing arrow. Palmitic acid production, right-pointing arrow. Excess oil in the skin, right-pointing arrow, blackheads. But the story doesn't stop there, because what happens to that palmitic acid matters just as much as where it comes from. The conversion that isn't happening, and what it's costing you. Under normal, healthy conditions, palmitic acid is supposed to be converted into a completely different type of fat. This secondary fat is unique. It exists almost exclusively in human skin. It functions as a natural antibiotic. It protects the sebaceous gland from the kind of bacterial overgrowth and inflammation that leads to acne. When this conversion is happening properly, your skin is protected. The gland is calm. The oil flows without causing problems. But when the conversion breaks down, the palmitic acid accumulates unchecked. The natural defense doesn't form. The gland becomes inflamed, the pores clog, and the skin suffers. What controls this conversion? An enzyme, a biological catalyst that facilitates the transformation of palmitic acid into its protective counterpart. And what does that enzyme need in order to function? Zinc. Zinc, the missing mineral your skin is desperately calling for. This is the part I really want you to sit with, because it's both one of the most important and one of the most overlooked pieces of the entire acne and blackhead puzzle. Zinc is a trace mineral, meaning your body needs it in relatively small amounts, but those small amounts are absolutely critical. Among its many roles in the body, zinc is essential for enabling
The enzyme responsible for that crucial conversion we just talked about. When zinc is present in adequate levels, the enzyme works. The conversion happens. The skin gets its natural protection. When zinc is deficient, when there simply isn't enough of it in your system, the enzyme can't do its job. Palmitic acid doesn't convert. It sits there.
it accumulates. The protective fat doesn't form, and the result, among many other consequences, shows up on your face. Here's the part that should really make you pay attention. Zinc deficiency is extremely common. It's not rare. It's not some exotic nutritional problem that affects a small percentage of people. It's widespread. And blackheads, according to researchers who study this, are one of the most reliable biological indicators of how much zinc is actually circulating in your body. Think about that for a moment. Your skin is literally signaling your zinc status. If you're dealing with persistent blackheads, that's your body waving a flag. It's telling you something is missing. Zinc also plays another important role in this whole picture. It helps regulate androgen levels. So without enough zinc, you don't just lose the enzyme conversion, you also lose a key mechanism for keeping those oil-stimulating hormones in check. The problems stack on top of each other. What else shuts down that enzyme? Zinc deficiency is a major culprit, but it's not the only thing that blocks that critical conversion. A few other factors deserve mention. Excess sugar, which we've already identified as the source of excess palmitic acid production, also directly inhibits the enzyme. So it's attacking on two fronts. It's flooding the system with raw material that needs converting, and simultaneously blocking the enzyme that would do the converting. That's a double hit. On top of that, excess sugar depletes your body's zinc stores. So not only is it disrupting the enzyme through its own biochemical interference, it's also stripping away the mineral the enzyme depends on. We're now looking at a triple hit from sugar alone. Alcohol has a similar blocking effect on the enzyme. So does the regular consumption of junk food. If your diet is built around sugar, processed carbohydrates, alcohol, and low-nutrient packaged foods, your skin is not getting the conditions it needs to protect itself, no matter what you're applying topically. Vitamin A, the master controller you're probably missing. Now let's bring in another key player, vitamin A. You may have heard of a prescription medication called Accutane. It's been one of the most aggressive and effective pharmaceutical treatments for severe acne ever developed. What many people don't realize is that Accutane is essentially a powerful synthetic derivative of vitamin A. The reason it works so dramatically is that vitamin A functions as the master regulator of sebaceous gland activity. It controls how much oil the gland produces, how the gland develops, and how it responds to hormonal signals. The problem with Accutane is that it comes loaded with serious side effects. And those side effects have caused a lot of people, rightly, to want nothing to do with it. So they turn to natural vitamin A instead. And here's where a critical misunderstanding happens. Vitamin A on its own doesn't work without zinc. The two have to work together. Vitamin A needs zinc to be properly utilized by the body. So if someone is taking a vitamin A supplement hoping to clear their skin, but they haven't addressed their zinc deficiency, they're not going to see the results they're looking for. The mechanism is incomplete. This is why food-based sources of nutrition often work better than isolated supplements, because they deliver multiple nutrients together in their natural ratios. And nowhere is this more apparent than with liver. Animal liver, particularly beef liver, is one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. It's extraordinarily rich in vitamin A in the form of retinol, which is the most bioavailable type. And it also happens to be an excellent source of zinc. So, in one food, you're getting both of the things your skin is asking for, informs your body recognizes, and can immediately use. Now, I'll be completely transparent with you. I personally cannot eat liver. I've tried, I don't enjoy it, I don't like the taste or the texture. But I found something that works just as well for me, and that's cod liver oil. It's a concentrated, high quality source of natural vitamin A, and it's far easier to incorporate daily. If you're in the same boat as me when it comes to eating liver, cod liver oil is a genuinely excellent substitute. The fatty liver connection. This is where it gets really important. Everything I've described so far is significant, but there's a deeper layer to this story, and it's the piece that ties everything together in a way that changes the conversation, from skincare to metabolic health. We've established that excess sugar gets converted into fat, specifically palmitic acid, by the liver. But that conversion doesn't just create a problem for your skin, it creates a problem for the liver itself. When you consistently consume more carbohydrates and sugar than your body can burn, the liver becomes overloaded with fat. This is the condition we call non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or more simply, a fatty liver. And here's why this matters so profoundly for your skin. The liver is one of the primary storage sites for vitamin A in the entire body. It holds enormous reserves of it. When the liver becomes saturated with fat, its ability to properly process, store, and release vitamin A becomes compromised. The vitamin is there, but the liver can't work with it effectively. And so, even if you're eating foods rich in vitamin A, even if you're supplementing with it, the disrupted liver function means your body can't access and utilize it properly. Your skin, which depends on that vitamin A to regulate the oil gland, stops getting what it needs. And it doesn't stop there. As fat continues to accumulate in the liver beyond its capacity, it begins to spill over. It deposits in and around other organs. It infiltrates tissues where fat doesn't belong. This is what we call visceral fat, the dangerous, deep internal fat that wraps around your organs and is associated with serious metabolic disease. Here's the bottom line on this. Blackheads, in the context of all we've discussed, are not just a cosmetic nuisance. They are a signal from your metabolism. They are the skin's way of communicating that something deeper is off, that there's likely too much sugar in the diet, possible fat accumulation in the liver, and a cascade of nutrient disruptions that's manifesting in the most visible organ you have. In that sense, a blackhead is a tiny red flag on your face, alerting you to a deeper imbalance you can't see. No amount of zinc supplementation and no amount of vitamin A will fully resolve the issue if the root cause, excess sugar and its downstream effects, isn't being addressed. Why teenage skin tells the same story. This is where it gets a little personal for me, and maybe you'll relate. As a teenager, I had terrible acne, and I did exactly what most teenagers do. I tried everything: prescription creams, over-the-counter cleansers, antibiotics, face washes, special pillowcases, spot treatments. Nothing made a lasting difference. Nothing got to the root of the problem because nobody was talking to me about what I was eating. And what was I eating? Enormous amounts of sugar. Sodas, chips, candy, fast food. The standard teenage diet for many of us. That sugar was driving excess insulin production. Elevated insulin, in turn, drives up androgen levels. Elevated androgens stimulate the sebaceous glands to grow larger and produce more oil. More oil means more clogging. More clogging means more acne. More acne means more frustration, more creams, and still no real answers. The cycle was running on sugar the entire time, and no topical product was ever going to interrupt that cycle because the source of the problem was entirely internal. So let's bring it all together. What does an actual, evidence-informed remedy for blackheads look like? First and most fundamentally, eliminate or dramatically reduce excess sugar and refined carbohydrates from your diet. This single step interrupts more links in the chain than anything else you can do. It reduces palmitic acid production, it stops the enzyme from being blocked, it protects your zinc stores, it prevents fat from accumulating in the liver, It helps regulate insulin, which in turn helps regulate androgens. A ketogenic diet, one that minimizes carbohydrates and relies on healthy fats and protein as primary fuel sources, is particularly effective here because it essentially removes the sugar driven cascade entirely. Combined with intermittent fasting, which gives the liver regular windows to process accumulated fat and reset metabolic function, many people see significant skin improvements within weeks. Second, address zinc. Eat foods that are genuinely rich in bioavailable zinc. Red meat, shellfish, oysters are among the highest zinc density foods on Earth, and liver if you can tolerate it. If you're supplementing, zinc picolinate or zinc glycinate tend to be better absorbed than zinc oxide. Third, get your vitamin A from real food sources. Cod liver oil is an outstanding option. It delivers natural retinol alongside omega 3 fatty acids and vitamin D, which also plays a role in skin health. Liver is another excellent option if you enjoy it. If you choose to supplement, make sure zinc is already in place, because without it, the vitamin A will underperform. And finally, eat nutrient dense whole foods as your foundation. Not because it's a trendy lifestyle position, but because your skin's chemistry literally depends on it. The enzyme conversions, the hormonal regulation, the liver function, the vitamin utilization, all of it is built on the raw materials your diet provides every single day. Your skin is not failing you, it's reporting to you. And when you learn to read what it's saying and you address the root cause rather than suppressing the symptoms, it starts to do something remarkable. It heals.